Thank you, Mr. President. Among the things that will be going on soon is that in about a week, we'll be celebrating the 244th birthday of this country. A birthday that, as our colleague from the 24th Senate District so eloquently put, that without a rebellion, a protest against King George III and his policies for the colonies would not have occurred, or at least not in the way we've learned. Now, as probably the only legislator who grew up in Massachusetts in this body, I can tell you that having spent my teen, my young adult, and early adult years living there, not far from where many of the events of the American Revolution unfolded, I am likely the only person here who spent summers swimming on Walden Pond, riding their bike along the part of the route, or parts of the route, of Paul Revere's ride. My parents didn't live too far from there. Or playing on the very bridge in Concord, or Concord as you guys say, of the famed shot heard round the world. I also went to high school in Boston, just blocks away from the Freedom Trail. And as was discussed leading up to Juneteenth, the 4th of July, it's a conflicted date for many African Americans. And again, our colleague from the 24th District mentioned the fact that on Independence Day, slavery had yet to be abolished. Now, for someone who's also a second-generation American, the granddaughter of grandparents who, in coming to this country for the promise of liberty and justice for all that this country offers, and who were simultaneously patriotic, because of that hope and that promise, even as this country often fails to live up to that promise, that very promise imbued within the guiding framework and tenets of unalienable rights, of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, I can say that confliction is real, and this is why. 244 years ago, those rights were not imbued to all upon these shores, to all on this stolen land. And while people on and around 4th of July have family celebrations, cookouts, barbecues, maybe even a backyard pyrotechnic show in honor of America's birthday, I really want us to all pause for a moment to reflect on some of the events that inched us further towards the moral arc of justice and that inched us further towards living up to the promise of America's tenets. A lot of things happened in July historically in this country. I hope that you will think about the fact that within a year of the founding of this country, Vermont would be the first state to abolish slavery. It would take many more years for other states to follow suit, and in fact, it would be another decade in 1787 that the Continental Congress would forbid slavery in the region northwest of the Ohio River by the Northwest Ordinance. But that was not the end of slavery in this country. For in July of 1839, the Amistad Mutiny and rebellion and victory of enslaved people over their captors occurred. If you get a chance, watch the film over the next few weeks. And in a decade after that, Harriet Tubman would escape her captors in the South and make 20 trips back to lead over 300 enslaved people north to freedom. Now, this isn't an exhaustive history of Black people on this land, far from it. But I also hope that on July 2nd, just 2 days before this country's 188th birthday, that we will all pause and reflect that it was only 56 years ago that the Civil Rights Act was signed. 56 years ago. This country has made small measures towards progress, towards living up to her tenets of the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, as well as her promise of liberty and justice for all. But we still have it within our power, within our grasp to do better and move even closer to living up to those tenets and promises. We have before us SCR 127 to declare racism a public health crisis, and I'm reminded of Martha G. Scott's daily plea, sign my bill. The Michigan Lottery has a slogan of you gotta be in it to win it, and Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm said, you don't make progress by sitting on the sidelines, you make progress by implementing ideas. I want us all to consider our resolve and dedication to answer the mandate of doing better, so that we